What is up, NBA fans? I am Jason Burgos for Sportsnaut.com, and I have the pleasure of being joined by the top NBA reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He's here to, of course, talk the 76ers, but also a lot of other NBA topics as we get close to the NBA playoffs, and that is the one and only Keith Pompey. Keith, thank you so much for the time tonight.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
So, a lot of questions. Of course, we got to start with the 76ers. A lot of interesting things going on with them. After a couple months away, Joel Embiid, finally makes his return, long-awaited return to the team. But he made an interesting comment this week since he's been back, saying, he didn't have to come back. And based off of what you have seen, what you know about the team, stuff like that, do you feel in any way maybe, is Joel pretty close to fully healthy, or do you think on some level maybe he's gonna keep battling through this knee issue, the post surgery, just so he can get back, so he can be with his team for this stretch run, and maybe on some level, kind of 76ers fans maybe need to feel like maybe he won't be back to MVP form, and he might have to be a hurt version of himself the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what it is like, the injury the timeline for it is 4 to 6 weeks. He's been out 8 weeks, right? He's back. I think the big thing right now is getting back in shape. Playing basketball, and sometimes if you're not careful, fatigue, and you can slip and you can fall, that could lead to injury. But what I think that Joel Embiid is in the shape that good shape that he's in. It's just a matter of him getting his condition. Now, is he going to play the way he did early in the season? He was playing at such an elite level. I don't know if he can get there just because of the conditioning in his short time, but I don't think that he can hurt the knee. I just feel like that they were extra cautious because it actually took him 8 weeks when it was a 4-week injury.
Obviously, the team suffered without him on the floor, and they fell down the standings now and kind of battling to get out of the play-in tournaments and avoid those kinds of games. However, do you feel there are positives to take from his time away from the team? So it isn't a situation like, oh, the king is back, we're saved. It's more like some players really got better, maybe there's some kind of playoff benefits they'll get because some of the players did grow while Joel was away.
The only benefit I think they can get is to see like how guys could play without him. If you can step up, if you can, you know what I mean. I think like you look at it and you see what Tyrese Maxey can do. You look at a guy like Kelly Oubre, you can see what he does playing various different roles, right? But outside of that, I think that a lot of guys, some guys even got exposed, which is good for the Sixers in regards to evaluating talent. So I think that's the bonus. But overall, the way that they lost, we think about it. Before he was injured, they were in third place. When he
Yeah.
came
Yep.
back, they were in eighth place. So you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, evaluations, I think that's the only benefit they got from that.
Fair enough. Everyone pretty much expects the Celtics to be in the East Finals. They're almost the uncrowned Eastern Conference champions at this point. It's crazy. If Joel can get back somewhere close to this MVP kind of form, the Sixers should be considered like a favorite to possibly be an opponent to meet him in the finals. If you had to set up like a perfect bracket for Philly in the first two rounds, who would be like the best matchups for them, or the teams likely to make the top eight that would give them the best shots to advance all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals?
A team that will give them, and I'm just saying, I don't even like. The standings keep going up and down, and these two teams are going to be neck and neck. But I would say a first round matchup against Cleveland, right? And then I would say hope and pray that Milwaukee beats Boston. So if Milwaukee
Okay.
beats Boston, I'm looking at Milwaukee. Let's think about it. They're a team that started 30-13. Now they're 15-15. So they've been struggling mightily, right? So I feel like if you can play those two teams, those are the teams that basically could give the Sixers the best chance of going far in the playoffs.
You reported late in March the 76ers interest in Paul George is like one of the worst kept secrets in the league right now. And maybe there's some around the league that think there's a good chance a deal could get done in the summer between the two sides. But there are also some fans that kind of unsure about it. I mean, and I get it. Paul is 30, he'll be 34 next month. This is the first season he's played more than 60 games since 2018, 2019. Why do you feel, because you know the team so well, why do you feel the 76ers are so high on him? And also, could he be viewed almost like a plan B to OG Anunoby, who when we talked a couple months back, you said that would have been a perfect guy for them to get?
Yeah, I think right now, I mean, you look at it, and the Sixers are going back to doing the star hunting thing. But if you look at it, like OG is most likely going to, let's things sour, he's going to, re-sign with the Knicks, right? You look at
Mm,
Pascal Siakam, he's probably going to re-sign with Indiana, the places they were traded. So when you look at it, I think Paul George,
yeah.
outside of, there's not a lot of free agents that you say, hey, I got to go get this guy. So I feel like, and also is a name player. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I have some concerns because of, you know, injury history, because of how's he going to deal with playing in a city where if you're down and you're struggling in the first quarter, they're booing you off the court when the quarter is over. So it's going to be a tough psychological thing for him to come here. So I don't know if he's a good fit for him.
If it's not Paul George, and maybe something happens where the Clippers do, he ends up going and staying back with the Clippers. Who do you think? Because obviously you mentioned they're kind of star hunting. They got to get another guy probably to go with Joel and Tyrese and stuff like that. Do you see another guy? Is there a guy that makes sense to them that could be possible in free agency, or maybe a trade? Or should Knicks fans be worried that they could be a top contender to go after OG in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. See, I think OG will probably go to re-sign with New York, right? That's what I think.
Mm,
My thing is, I think that right there in the free agency, they really don't have a lot available. They don't. I mean, like, I don't think they're going to go back after James Harden after all this, right? You look at it, I mean, it's funny. The top free agent right now is Tyrese Maxey, and he's restricted.
mm,
And we know the Sixers are
yeah.
going to re-sign him. And then there's Tobias Harris. So a name that keeps popping up, and I don't even know if he's a good fit, but if you're all about going star hunting and you got to go get a guy, I mean, you got to ask yourself, are the Sixers going to be willing to overpay DeMar DeRozan? Like, you know what I mean? And then
Huh.
when you look at
Okay.
DeMar, you ask yourself, does he fit in well with the Sixers? And I don't think he does. I feel like you want Maxey to have the ball. You got Joel, and then you don't need another guy that's going to be ball dominant, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I think that right now it could be Paul George or bust, so to speak. If not,
Mm.
they may have to bring Tobias Harris back. But so it's not this summer. Everything sounds great, but right now, unless the Sixers know something everybody else doesn't, it could be slim pickings in free agency to get that superstar type of player.
So I'm gonna throw out a wild idea, and it's wild, but it's not completely impossible. But the Suns ain't headed in a good direction. They're just not. It's not working.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal, nobody wants him. Devin Booker's the homegrown guy. Would Kevin Durant be the option if the Suns say, okay, this didn't work, we spent a bunch of money, this isn't happening, we need to go in a different direction? Okay, we'll move Kevin. Is that somebody you think the Sixers would even think about? I mean, we just talked about Paul George and age and everything, but Kevin's been great this year, so it's a little different situation.
Oh yeah. They like, hey Paul. It'd be one of those like, hey Paul, like we love you, bro, but I'm sorry, you're not
Yeah,
coming to Philly. And
yeah,
then hey, Kevin will be there. Oh yeah, I think if Kevin Durant came, the only problem is I don't know who they would want off the Sixers roster
yeah. That's
outside
true.
of Embiid or Maxey, right? And
Yeah,
and but the thing is, if they got Kevin Durant, I mean, I think that this would be a quality team, honestly,
yeah.
because you got it on three different levels, three levels. So yeah, I mean, Kevin Durant, that would be a great one, but the only problem is, so like, in order, you would probably have to do a sign and trade or whatever. You have to do some other things. But I don't know, like, if a team would, let's say, like, would you trade him for Tobias Harris if you're the
Mm,
Phoenix Suns, or
yeah.
and Kelly Oubre? And I don't think that's going to happen. You know what I mean? But he would be
Yeah.
great. He would be great.
going back to the Knicks, because I'm a Knicks fan, I want to get more of your thoughts about more NBA stuff other than the Sixers. First, like this Julius Randle injury, the season-ending injury, from your perspective, having seen the Knicks and stuff like that, having to watch the league and stuff like that, do you feel this kind of really kills kind of this momentum? A lot of people felt that they could be a serious contender to the Celtics, or looking at them, they get OG back, now they got Mitchell Robinson back, nasty defensive team. Could they still be a problem in the East, even without Julius Randle?
You know, I think that it does lose some of its luster
Yeah.
without Julius Randle, but at the same time, I think it all depends on two players. Jalen Brunson and OG. Like I do, I think like the thing about OG, with Randle being there, OG was more of like, I get easy baskets. I'll defend, but I think with Randall out there, they may have to rely on him a little bit more offensively,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think he has to play within himself. Like, I think if he thinks that, he's the second coming of Kevin Durant, we talked about Kevin Durant, I think the Knicks are in trouble.
Yeah.
But I,
Yeah.
but I do think that Bogdanovich, the guy that they picked up,
Yes.
he's another
Yeah.
guy that has to step
Yep.
in. Like if he can
Yep.
step up, I know he hurts you on the defensive end, but offensively somebody's gonna have to take some of that scoring
Yeah.
load. And if OG can take a little bit more of what he's doing, and you let Bogdanovich do some things, I think they'll be okay. I do, but I don't. But I do think that with Randall there and having those other guys as
Yeah.
complementary players, so to speak,
Yep.
it made the Knicks a really deep team for the playoffs.
If it's not Philly, who is the biggest threat to the Celtics in the East? Is it Milwaukee? I mean, based on what you said earlier, it doesn't seem like it's Milwaukee. Are fans maybe fans asleep on Cleveland? I mean, Cleveland, I know they have the one big guy, but they've been a good team. They're deep in a way. Is it the Magic? The Magic, they're a nice young team. Maybe it's not this year, but maybe they surprise. Or is it the damn Heat just lying in the weeds and they're just gonna do what they always do, and that's the real threat to the Celtics as always?
You know what? I honestly think though, if the Knicks can turn things around, I think it would be them. And the
Okay.
reason why I'm saying that is, I mean, on paper you say Cleveland, but Cleveland has a history of faltering in the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? You look
Yep.
at the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, on paper, you'll say the Milwaukee Bucks, but since Doc Rivers has taken over their team and everyone else, like they've just been 15-15, right? I think that the Knicks, and the problem with the Knicks is like they got to learn how to play the difference between regular season basketball and playoff basketball.
Mm.
But when you have Jalen Brunson and you have all those guys that they have, Randall, of course, is going to hurt them. But I think that they have a better chance than Cleveland, than
Mm.
Indiana, than you know what I mean. And like so, outside of I'll say Milwaukee number one, but outside of them, if the Knicks like get it together, I think that they have a chance. I do.
Now, last question. The Nuggets have quietly hung around near the top of the West all year, and here we are, final weeks of the season. Guess who's creeping up toward the top of the Western Conference standings? They have been, they got to be favorites again. Well, they were favorites anyway, but now that they're showing, they're still the best. They are the favorites. Who is your pick? Just following sport all year, covering all these different teams and stuff like that. Who's the one that's going to give them a run? Is it going to be the Timberwolves? Are the Timberwolves for real? Are the Thunder for real? Are the Clippers with James Harden, are the real threat? Or is this whole thing with the Mavericks and Luke and how well they're playing? Maybe there's something there, and they could be the problem for the Nuggets.
I think they can, but I honestly think, I mean, everyone's saying like the West is deeper, right? But when you look
Mm.
at it, Luka and them can't play any defense, and that's going to be a problem against Denver, right? OKC, you want to say, okay, OKC is going to be the team that can help them, but they're so young pups, and I think that they got to get
Yeah,
baptized, right? You know what I mean?
yeah,
The Clippers, like on paper you think they would do something, but they've been sliding too. Like they've been looking
yeah.
old as of late, right? So I don't know, man. I think it may be OKC. It could be, but I don't even know if OKC is going to go far. Like I think that
Mm.
the NBA, the talent isn't as deep as everybody thought it was. These teams, I think that you got
Hmm.
Denver, who is on cruise control. and then you have Boston Celtics, right? And you have a couple other possibilities. Now it would have been Minnesota, but then when Cat went down, now I know they're
Yeah,
saying he's
yep.
going to come back and all this and that, but it's going to take him a while to get back. But I would say them beforehand, but I don't know, man. I just don't know. I don't know.